In the silent workings of the psyche, the man who truly thinks of you incessantly is not always aware of his own obsession. The unconscious mind, that vast and mysterious realm beneath awareness, often forms attachments that seem irrational to the waking intellect. A man may not know why he dreams of you, why his thoughts wander toward your image while engaged in daily toil, but it is the anima at work. She has found in you a projection, a reflection of something he seeks inwardly but cannot name. You must understand that the anima, the feminine soul image in a man's psyche, is a force not easily subdued. When a woman embodies or evokes the anima archetype within a man, she becomes more than flesh, she becomes symbol. She is not only desired but revered, not only loved but mythologized. This is not mere infatuation, but a stirring of deep psychic resonance. When he sees you, he does not merely see a woman, he sees the echo of his own soul's yearning. Such attraction is not casual, it is obsessive because it speaks a language the ego cannot fully interpret. You may observe it in his gaze, not lustful but searching as if attempting to peer through the veil of matter into the eternal. When he listens to you, it is not with the ear but with the whole of his being. This is no superficial connection. This is the psyche recognizing itself in another. When you become the container of a man's anima, you are held in his thoughts like a sacred idea, a guiding vision. It is not necessarily romantic in the ordinary sense. It may be far more unsettling. To be so remembered is to awaken the unconscious itself. A man might not confess his preoccupation during daylight, but in dreams, the truth comes forth unbidden. The unconscious does not lie. If you appear in his dreams again and again, it is because you are imprinted into the very structure of his psychic reality. The psyche, as I have said, compensates for the imbalance of the conscious attitude, and so, if he represses thoughts of you during the day, the unconscious will rebel at night. Dreams are not mere nonsense, they are expressions of the soul's language. When he dreams of you, he does not dream of you alone but of what you represent. You are the image of Eros, the bridge between his conscious self and the deeper world within. He may dream of you in strange or symbolic ways, dancing in firelight, lost in a forest, or as a voice in a storm. These are not random. They are the psyche's attempt to draw him closer to his own wholeness, and you are the guide in that process. Such dreams often leave a residuing ache, a wonder, a confusion. He may wake disturbed, exhilarated, or haunted, and yet he will not speak of it, for the experience is intimate, sacred. But if you notice his eyes linger, his words falter, his presence lingers, it is likely because the dream has not faded with the dawn. You remain. To be in someone's dreams persistently is not a trick of chance. It is a summons. You are being called inwardly by his unconscious mind, whether he knows it or not, and that is the truest sign of all. When a man truly thinks about you constantly, he sacrifices the most finite resource he possesses, his time. Time is not merely chronological, it is psychological. To give time is to give presence, attention, and psychic energy. You will notice this when he finds excuses to linger in your presence, even when there is no practical reason to do so. He rearranges his life, not because he is obligated, but because he is drawn. This sacrifice of time is not always conscious. The ego may protest, I must work, I must leave, but the deeper psyche overrides such commands. He may not understand why he delays his departure, why he texts you seemingly mundane thoughts, or why your voice echoes after you have gone. This is the behavior of a man whose energy has turned toward a central psychic image, you. In Jungian psychology, what we turn our libido toward becomes a center of gravity in the psyche. When that center is a person, they become what I call a numinous figure charged with meaning and power. You cease to be merely someone and become a symbolic reality in his world. The time he gives is not simply ours, it is devotion. It is the pouring out of energy into the chalice of another. And this devotion is often done in silence. Do not expect grand declarations. The man who truly centers his psyche on you may never utter the words, but his time will show it. And the unconscious does not lie. The persona, that social mask we all wear, is a necessary function of daily life. Yet when a man is wholly absorbed in thoughts of you, you will find that his gaze seeks to penetrate beyond mere appearances. He no longer sees you as others do. His attention breaks through the surface and reaches into your essence. He is not concerned with how you present yourself to the world, but who you are when no one is watching. In such moments, his eyes carry the hunger of the seeker, not of possession, but of revelation. He seeks to know your depths, perhaps without knowing his own reason. This is not curiosity, it is an unconscious drive to encounter the self through you. The more he looks, the more he is drawn inward by your presence. You have become a symbol, and symbols are never static, they are alive, ever evolving. You awaken in him a confrontation with his own authenticity. This confrontation is not without pain, for to truly see someone and to be seen in return is to risk the collapse of the persona itself. He may become nervous in your presence, even avoidant, not because of disinterest, but because his psyche is undergoing a subtle, sacred disturbance. You are not merely a person to him. You have become a threshold, a portal. And when a man sees through the persona, he seeks not entertainment or flattery. He desires connection, not of the flesh alone, but of spirit and soul. To be seen in this way is rare. To be seen in this way is to be unforgettable. A sure sign that a man thinks of you constantly is when you begin to echo in his speech, even unintentionally. He adopts phrases you use, mirrors your emotional cadence, aligns himself to your rhythm. This is not mimicry, it is psychic resonance. The more he reflects you, the more he is being transformed by your psychic image. Language, in Jungian thought, is not only a tool for communication, it is the material of soul. Words are charged with archetypal energy. When a man uses your words, your metaphors, your logic, he is allowing your inner world to inhabit his. He is, without realizing it, internalizing your presence as part of his own psyche. You become, in a sense, a new lens through which he views the world. This reflection may also take the form of imitation in behavior. You might see him pursuing interests you cherish or displaying an empathy previously dormant. These changes are not always immediate, but they are sincere. He does not change for approval, he changes because he has been inwardly moved. The unconscious, once affected by a powerful symbolic image, cannot remain inert. And if you observe this mirroring, do not take it lightly. To be reflected in another is to be integrated into their psychic life. It is the work of Eros, not just erotic, but the life force that binds and transforms. When a man carries your imprint in thought, speech, and action, it is because your presence has entered the deepest chambers of his soul. If you notice that a man oscillates between closeness and withdrawal, do not mistake this as indecision. It is often the product of a profound inner tensione, conflict between the pull of desire and the fear of psychic transformation. The deeper the attachment, the more the ego resists. For to truly love is to surrender something of the self. In Jungian terms, this is a battle between the ego and the self. The ego, accustomed to control, feels threatened by the intensity of emotion that your presence evokes. He may retreat not because he no longer feels, but because he feels too much. Love, when real, disturbs the foundations of the psyche. It demands change. It confronts us with our shadows, our wounds, and our longings. This push and pull is not immaturity. It's the drama of individuation. To draw near to one's symbolic other is to risk dissolution of old forms. He may disappear for a time, only to return more certain. Or he may speak in riddles, unsure of what he desires. But through it all, if you remain in his thoughts, it is because something in you is reshaping his inner architecture. Do not be disheartened by his absence. The soul often withdraws before it emerges anew. If he battles within himself, it is not because he does not care, but because you are the precipice of his becoming. One of the most powerful signs that you dominate a man's inner world is when he begins to create. Whether he paints, writes, composes, builds or simply imagines, you have become the muse of his unconscious. This is not romantic idealization, but psychological necessity. The anima, when awakened, demands expression. In mythology, the muse is not chosen. She descends, she inspires, compels, even torments the artist. So too, when you dwell in a man's psyche, he must externalize you, not merely to possess you, but to understand himself. You become the unknown he is trying to know through metaphor, symbol, and story. You may find traces of yourself in his poems, his photographs, his silence. This creative impulse is not always artistic. It may appear in his drive to improve, to ascend, to become more than he was. You have ignited eros, not just sensual, but existential. You are not his project, but his catalyst. His longing for you has awakened his longing for life, for purpose, for truth. To be a man's muse is to hold space in the sanctuary of his soul. It is a sacred responsibility. And if he shows signs of creating because of you, know that you are more than admired. You are indelible. In a world dominated by personas and defenses, when a man shows you his vulnerability, it is not weakness it is offering. Most men are trained to guard the tender parts of their psyche. But when you occupy his thoughts persistently, you begin to soften the outer shell. You will see this not in declarations, but in small gestures, an admission of fear, a moment of quiet, a story from his past he has never told another. To be vulnerable is to be exposed to wounding, and yet the soul knows that growth does not occur in comfort, but in confrontation. If he is thinking about you constantly, he will begin to lower his inner walls, not because he wants to, but because he must. The unconscious seeks union, and true union is impossible without the shedding of armor. In this moment, he becomes real not just to you, but to himself. You may find that he expresses doubt, not only about love, but about himself. He wonders aloud if he is enough. This is not fishing for reassurance. It is an existential cry. He has placed you, consciously or not, in the role of the other, the mirror, in which he sees both his divinity and his incompleteness. He trusts you with his shadow, and this is a far greater gift than flattery or performance. Such intimacy is sacred. When a man shows you the trembling edges of his soul, he is inviting you into the inner sanctum. And if he does so, it is because your presence has awakened the longing not just to be loved, but to be whole. We must speak now of archetypes, for when a man cannot stop thinking of you, it is not you alone that he desires, but the archetype you have awakened. You are no longer merely an individual to him. You have become an axis, mundi, the axis around which his psyche begins to turn. Whether you embody the lover, the healer, the mother, or the priestess, you are an archetypal symbol that speaks to his deepest psychic structures. This attraction, therefore, is not ordinary. It is timeless. It reaches beyond biography into mythology. He may sense that you are his destiny, not in a sentimental way, but in the profound recognition that you call him toward integration. And integration, as I have often said, is the aim of the individuation process. When a person stirs the soul so deeply, it is because they have become part of the great work of becoming oneself. Such a pull is both divine and dangerous. For archetypes do not ask politely, they demand transformation. You may notice that he becomes restless, even disturbed. This is not dysfunction, it is initiation. His old life no longer satisfies. His old identity begins to dissolve. And at the center of this change stands your image, luminous and haunting. To awaken such an archetypal longing in another is a profound experience for both souls involved. If he cannot cease thinking of you, it is because his inner world is reorienting itself toward you as a symbol of meaning, as a vessel of awakening. This is not mere affection, this is metaphysical. Finally, the greatest sign that you occupy a man's innermost thoughts is this: you have become a part of his inner myth. Each of us, whether we know it or not, lives according to a mytho-personal narrative, rich with symbols, wounds, and aspirations. When you become central to his myth, you no longer live only in his outer world. You inhabit the architecture of his destiny. He may see you as the one who arrives when the old ways have crumbled, the guide who leads him out of exile, or the beloved who must be won through trial. This myth may not be spoken, but it is enacted in dreams, in choices, in longing. When he thinks of you, he is not only remembering you are his story now, you are the meaning he seeks. This is no ordinary love. It is archetypal love, mythic love, the kind that reorders a soul's path. It does not always lead to romance. Sometimes it leads to ruin and rebirth. But always it leads to transformation. If he cannot stop thinking of you, it is because you have become fused with the symbolic framework by which he understands life itself. In Jungian terms, this is the deepest union, not only emotional or spiritual, but narrative. You are the motif. You are the central figure in his psychic drama. You are not merely loved. You are storied. And in this, you must ask yourself not only, does he love me, but am I prepared to play such a role in another's soul? For to be so remembered is no small thing. It is an invitation and a responsibility woven into the very mythos of the heart.